We've all been there before. You're rushing out the door, already late, when you walk under a ladder and immediately feel it. That little flicker of something wrong, like your stomach just filed a complaint. You don't believe in this stuff? You're a rational person, and yet your hand is already reaching out to knock on the nearest piece of wood. That instinct didn't come from nowhere, and it's a lot stranger than you think. Here's the thing about your brain. It is, at its core, a pattern machine. Every second of every day, it is scanning the world around you, looking for connections, building maps, filing correlations. It does this automatically, compulsively, whether you asked it to or not. Like a very anxious librarian who cannot stop cross-referencing books even when the library is on fire. And this system is so aggressive, so deeply baked into how you work, that it will happily find patterns that aren't there. Psychologists call this apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. Your brain doesn't distinguish between real patterns and fake ones. It just finds them, slaps a label on them, and moves on. Which means when the black cat crossed the road the same morning your car got a flat tire, your brain didn't file that under coincidence. It filed it under remember this. This is where superstition is born, not in ignorance, not in stupidity. In the exact same cognitive machinery that helped your ancestors survive. If you heard a rustle in the tall grass and assumed it was a predator, you lived. If you assumed it was nothing, you occasionally got eaten. Treating random events as meaningful was, for most of human history, a reasonable bet. Evolution didn't build you to be skeptical. It built you to be fast, and you're still running on that hardware. In a world where the tall grass is traffic jams and job interviews and creaky floorboards at 2 in the morning. Which brings us to the part nobody talks about. Superstition isn't just about fear, it's about control. Imagine you're waiting for a medical result, or a job offer, or something you need badly, and cannot influence in any way. The uncertainty sits in your chest like a stone. Your brain absolutely hates this. It hates it the way a smoke detector hates being in a kitchen. It is not built to just sit there calmly while things are uncertain and dangerous. And so, it generates a workaround. If you wear the lucky socks, if you don't step on that crack, if you knock on wood, now you're doing something. Now, you have an action tied to an outcome. You've converted helpless waiting into a ritual, and rituals feel like agency, even when they aren't. Researchers who study this, and yes, people study this for a living, which is either very comforting or deeply unsettling depending on your disposition, have found that people become significantly more superstitious when they feel out of control. Athletes develop elaborate pre-game rituals during high-stakes seasons. Students carry lucky pens into exams they haven't studied for. Traders on volatile market days have been known to wear specific ties, which is a thought that should keep you up at night for financial reasons entirely separate from superstition. The ritual isn't doing anything to the outcome, but it's doing something to your brain, and your brain is running the whole operation, so the effect is real, even if the mechanism is completely made up. And it gets weirder, because this isn't just a you thing, this is an everyone thing. Across every culture that has ever existed, in every part of the world, at every point in recorded history, humans have had superstitions. The specific symbols change. The number 13 is unlucky in parts of the Western world, while the number 4 is treated with similar dread across parts of East Asia, because the word for it sounds like the word for death. Different countries, different symbols, same psychological architecture underneath. Broken mirrors, spilled salt, birds flying into windows. The surface details vary, but the structure is identical. Something ordinary gets loaded with meaning. A ritual emerges to manage it. The ritual spreads, gets shared, gets taught to children, and now it's culture. This is what anthropologists call magical thinking, which sounds like an insult but is actually just a description of the very human tendency to treat the symbolic world as if it has real effects on the physical one. Knock on wood. The actual historical origin of that one is disputed, which is a polite way of saying nobody fully agrees, and several theories are a hopeful guess dressed up in a lab coat. Some trace it to pagan traditions involving tree spirits, others tie it to a children's game. What everyone agrees on is that it's spread, stuck, and survived for centuries because it does exactly what superstitions do. It gives you a small, satisfying action at the exact moment you feel most exposed. Which brings you to right now, the scientific age, the age of data and double-blind studies and smartphones that can answer almost any question within 4 seconds. And superstition is still here, still running, still filling your body with that flicker of dread when you accidentally open an umbrella indoors. Here's why. Superstitions don't survive because people are irrational. They survive because they work on a psychological level, often enough to keep going. You knocked on wood, nothing bad happened. The brain logs a point in favor of knocking on wood. This is called confirmation bias, and it is ruthless and thorough. Your brain keeps detailed records of every time the ritual seemed to work, and absolutely no records of every time it didn't. It's like a lawyer who only calls witnesses that support their case, and quietly loses all the paperwork for the other side. Over thousands of repetitions, across millions of people, you end up with an incredibly robust feeling belief, backed by exactly zero causal evidence, but a mountain of anecdotal coincidences that feel like proof. And there's one more layer. Superstitions are social. The lucky number your grandmother gave you isn't just a number anymore, it's her. It's a thread connecting you to something larger than your own single anxious brain. When you avoid a cracked mirror or save a penny you found heads up, you're not just managing anxiety, you're participating in a shared human system that's been passed down for generations. That's a powerful thing to walk away from, especially when walking away doesn't feel like gaining freedom so much as just sitting alone with the uncertainty, staring at it while it stares back. So, no, you're probably not going to stop knocking on wood. And the interesting part, the part that is either deeply comforting or one more thing to lie awake about, is that your brain was never really asking your permission anyway. It found the pattern, filed the ritual, and moved on. You just came along for the ride, like a passenger in your own skull, wearing lucky socks, hoping nobody notices. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.